want to talk about Iran, the special military operation, because that is unironically what the US has been calling it. The US has been calling this the special military operation. I want to talk about how this turns into a huge victory for Russia, because I guess I'm going to take a very Ukraine war angle to this. Symphonia from our browser. Well, there's also the fact that this whole Iran war of choice, because that is the name that is given to this war of choice, that it was not really a necessary war. Unlike what Trump would like you to believe, it was not really dictated by any sort of logic. It was not dictated by any sort of real security consideration. Trump was plainly asked, why did you do it? And his response and the entirety of his administration's response so far seems to be, well, Trump's relatives said that Iran would attack the United States, so the president has decided that he must attack first. And I think Trump himself said something along the lines of, I felt that they would attack, so I couldn't allow them, and so I decided to attack first. Trump has made a mess of things. Trump has created a situation in which the oil prices are just soaring to the sky, over $100 per barrel. And it seems like there's no stopping it. Not many countries are ready to release their strategic reserves. Russia is proving to be the biggest winner in all of this. The projections for Russia were very grim at the very start of this year. The prices for oil were plummeting. Russia was selling quantity, but Russia was also selling at a very, very low price, which was projected to really hurt Russia's war effort. Russia's economy was suffering, and it was supposed to go worse for Russia. Russia was supposed to be struggling with its oil sales and fueling its war effort, but now that Iran has been attacked, now that the pass through which a lot of global oil goes through has been blocked, and now that the oil prices have been soaring, Russia has been really happy that its situation has drastically reversed overnight just because Trump decided. Also, I believe that the Secretary of War, or I'm just going to call him Secretary of Defense, he just straight up said, okay, we actually attacked Iran because Israel did, so we had to as well. And now it's all but proven that the United States did hit the school. Apparently, there's evidence that the United States bombed the school in Iran and killed a whole bunch of people. To which Trump, at first he said that there are many different missiles, like the ones that attacked the school, that it could have been anybody, it could have been someone else. But now it seems like his response to the whole thing is just, I don't know anything about that. He just feigns ignorance. Who cares? Nothing cares. Nothing matters. No words matter. Nothing means anything, because Trump can just do whatever he wants and say, oh yeah, I don't know anything about that. Oh, we bombed the school, we killed a bunch of kids, whatever, who cares? And now there's FBI intelligence that Iran might actually attack the United States directly. There's a whole report that the United States homeland might be under attack by Iran because this whole war was a brilliant idea by Trump and his administration. People are already talking about how this war might already be a strategic failure by the United States, that the United States might be looking at a strategic defeat in Iran. So look forward to that. People are already very grimly joking about World War III. The Gulf states have not been happy with this development because Iran has been targeting the Gulf states in order to destabilize global economy and has been really successful in that. And of course, we enter Ukraine. We enter Ukraine's cheap interceptor drones, and how Donald Trump, who just 1 year ago said that Ukraine had no cards, that Ukraine was nothing, is now asking Ukraine for help. In when it comes to Ukraine's expertise and experience in shooting down Shahid drones. That has been a thing. Which I will admit that if there's anything that Donald Trump is good at, it's undermining his reputation, undermining his credibility. Nothing he says has any weight at all. Nothing he says has any respect at all. Because he can say one thing and sometime later he'll completely contradict himself. He'll completely undermine his own words. The Gulf states, of course, have also asked Ukraine for help when it comes to intercepting Iranian drones. So already experts from the Ukrainian military have set to instruct those countries as to how to protect themselves against the Shahid drones, something that Ukraine has plenty of experience with, something that I've also, I suppose, witnessed when I've been in Kyiv during airstrikes. There are apparently at least 3 anti-air teams around where I usually stay in Kyiv, and I've heard their work, and I've even seen their work firsthand. I've seen the little lights shooting up in the sky. I've seen those teams shoot down drones. So we are looking at a very, very crappy situation created by one very egotistical man who says that the war in Iran is very much done, but I guess it's not done. Not only is it not done, but it is escalating. The supreme leader of Iran has been killed. Of course, we all know that already. Trump has said that all of the people that could take his place were maybe killed, maybe not killed. But then Iran has just calmly chosen a new supreme leader, so all that was a waste. Nothing really was accomplished. The United States has not been able to accomplish much of note in this war. Trump has been floating around an idea of troops on the ground. And while all of this is happening, I just need to remind that Trump was very much supposed to be the president of no new wars. Trump was supposed to be this president of no new wars. And it seems like not only under Trump, no wars have been actually settled, but also he has started new wars. So all of his statements about being the president of new wars, the president of peace, Nobel Peace Prize, that was all bullshit. And we all knew that. We all knew that that would be the case. And by all of us, I mean all of us that were either not voting for him, if you're American, or people like me that were just begging people either not to vote for him or to vote against him. But unfortunately, that is not what happened. Apparently, there's a chunk of people that did decide to vote for the no new wars president. And here we are, more war than ever. More war than ever. Ukraine was supposed to be done in 24 hours. Oh yeah, of course. Not to mention that, oh my God, there's so much going on around Iran. There's so much ridiculousness going around this whole Iran war that where do I start? Where do I finish? What do I even talk about? There's been so much and I have not been talking about any of it. Russia has been feeding intel to Iran, apparently. And the reaction of the Trump administration to Russia feeding intel to Iran was just pathetic, shocking. I lack the words to describe it. It's just, you just have to hear it to believe it. There is something that you need to hear to believe, and I have it here. I've got it here. Hold on. Very, very shockingly ridiculous response of the Trump administration to the news that Intel has been. Hold on. I have it on my thing because my own reaction was pretty shocked. I was pretty shocked when I heard Special Envoy Witkoff's reaction to Russia sharing intelligence to Iran. Vladimir says, MAGA, be like, America will invade Iran to own the libs. I feel like that. And unironically, it feels like that. Look at this. That is the Special Envoy's reaction to the news that Russia has been feeding intel to Iran.
can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, the Russians said that they have not been sharing. That's what they said. So, you know, we can take them at their word, but they did say that. And yesterday morning, independently, Jared and I had a call with Ushakov, who reiterated the same. So, you know, that's a better question for the intel people, but let's hope that they're not sharing.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. This is just laughing. This is so incompetent. This is so laughable. It feels like, I don't know, maybe it's some 4D chess when the entirety of the Trump administration pretends to be ultra incompetent, but they're secretly on top of things. But it just doesn't feel that way. It feels like nobody knows what they're doing. It seems like they're flailing. Imagine being the special envoy when it comes to negotiating peace in this biggest war in Europe since World War II. And your attitude is, oh yeah, Russia says they're not doing it. Yeah, we asked them, hey, are you feeding intel to our enemies? Are you feeding intel to the country that we are currently at war with? And they said, no. They said, we're not. So I guess we're just going to take them at their word and let's hope they're not. What the fuck? What do I say to that? What commentary can I possibly offer to this level of incompetence? What level of insight, what analysis can I possibly offer to this kind of thing? It's impossible. But it's like that across the board. It's just like that across the board. Hey, there's evidence that the United States has actually attacked the school, destroyed the school in Iran. I don't know anything about that, which this is the most incompetent administration, I think, ever. I'm not sure if there's been ever a US administration that was quite like this. I think this is a new record for the United States when it comes to conduct. The United States, since the beginning of Trump's administration, has flushed United States soft power down the toilet, failed to actually finish any of the 8 conflicts that Trump has been continuously bragging about, failed to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Although I thought that was a pathetic promise to begin with, a completely impossible to realize promise. And of course, let's not forget that the United States has started new wars. Among them would be this new Iran war. Listen to this.
A new report says that the military investigation has found that the United States struck the school in Iran. As Commander-in-Chief, do you take responsibility for that?
That is what?
As Commander-in-Chief, do you...
For what?
For the strike on the school in Iran. A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it. Are you the president? How do you respond to that?
Commander-in-Chief, everybody. Commander-in-Chief of the American Armed Forces. I don't know about it. He turns into a senile old man very quickly when it's convenient. He really very quickly just turns into a demented old man when it's convenient to him. I don't know anything about that. I don't know. Why? We destroyed a school? No. It could have been anybody. It could have been anyone. Why do you say it's me? And here we are. And because of this conflict, as I've said multiple times, oil prices have risen up. Oil prices are way up in comparison to how they were way before. And that, of course, resulted in, well, Trump decided, well, I have to do something about these high oil prices, right? The United States is responsible for the war. So the logical thing to do would be for the United States to take care of it, for example, by releasing their strategic oil reserves to try to do something about these prices, to try to stabilize those prices, right? Would that make sense? Would it make sense for the prices to get stabilized that way? Or what does Trump do? What is Trump's go-to solution to the high oil prices? Yes, it's to loosen sanctions on Russia. It's to say, oh yeah, Russia can now sell oil to India, no problem. No more sad. Let's loosen the sanctions on Russia. Let's help Russia wage more war on Ukraine. That is the United States' reply to destabilizing the oil market via attacking Iran. Vladimir says, anyway, hello, Lucy. I know that you're doing serious news and stuff, but I came specifically to turn your serious stream into a joke. Thank you. Thank you, Vladimir. Listen, I will watch this later on the other channel, okay? I am not changing my super serious streaming to a joke. It's not happening. So yeah, now, in addition to all that's been happening, which is a complete... The United States started a war. This is the timeline. This is a very simplified timeline, but it is the timeline nonetheless. The United States started a war with Iran. Iran retaliated by attacking the Gulf states and possibly, as FBI reports, might attack the United States with drones. The Gulf states are not handling the drones very well because drone warfare is a pretty recent phenomenon, and the country that has the biggest amount of experience with those things is, of course, Ukraine, and Ukraine has offered its assistance. In fact, the United States has begged for assistance, and so Ukraine is helping the United States as well as the Gulf states with anti-air means to combat drones of Iran. And in exchange, as thank you, the United States is loosening sanctions on Russia. In fact, where is this? We have here somewhere that this opinion. Where is this? Oh yeah, also the United States have postponed peace talks. That's also an important little bit. The United States have postponed peace talks that were supposed to be happening over the war in Ukraine because the United States have shifted their focus on Iran. So this whole thing has been an uncontrolled mess. This whole thing has been a giant mess. Let's not even pretend. Ex-US diplomat, Iran war eases pressure on Putin rather than tightening in it. Because, that is what Trump has been doing, even without the war in Iran, actually. Let's see if this article let's see if this will...
President Trump is indeed going after Iran deliberately. It hasn't worked out the way he wanted.
No, it's not. Turning into a huge disaster for him, in fact.
The regime has not changed and is unlikely to on its own. The people do not have the means to impose a new regime. He's projecting confidence about our military capabilities.
Yeah, and the supreme leader in Iran has already been replaced. So nothing has been achieved. Trump has achieved nothing. None of the United States goals have been achieved, which is ironic since much like Russia, Trump thought that he would have this in the bag in a few days. Trump has called it a special military operation, and here we are. Yet another war by an ego-driven wannabe dictator that has not gone to plan. Go figure.
He thinks Vladimir Putin is his friend. The main beneficiary of this war in Iran right now is Putin.
Yep.
Good evening. I'm Adam Yasser.
It's absolutely true. Russia is the main winner. Russia's just the main winner in this war.
Are Russia's war on Ukraine and the US war on Iran preludes to a world war? And does President Donald Trump have a plan? Or is he taking decisions on the spur of the moment? I will seek answers to these questions from an outside...
It doesn't feel like he has a plan. Let me tell you that. It doesn't feel like he has a plan at all.
...analyst Kurt Volker, a former US ambassador to NATO. But first, let's listen to those who say they are in charge.
What I want your viewers to understand is this is only just the beginning.
Mr. President, you've said the war is, quote, very complete, but your defense secretary says this is just the beginning. So
yeah, I love how Trump's administration is contradicting Trump. Oh yeah, this war is done. And then you have his administration that says, oh yeah, this is actually just the beginning. Yeah, you can really see a very intricate plan at play here, can't you? This is also well planned out.
Which is it, and how long should Americans be
Well, I
prepared
think you
for this
could say
war?
it both.
Are you thinking?
Yeah, you could say both. That it's done. Okay, it's all at once. It's done, but also it's just the beginning. Of course, you can say both. Just what?
This week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think so.
The president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve
It's not done. By the way, it's not done.
the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury. But ultimately,
Oh my God. It's like listening to Russia all over again. We have to achieve our objectives. It's like, this is so pathetic.
the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met.
Oh my God. This is just, no wonder he treats Putin as his friend. It's just like, it feels like listening to Putin. We will not stop the war until the military objectives of Russia have been met. Our important objectives, we must meet them.
Based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us.
There you go. I had a hunch. I had a hunch that Iran was gonna attack us, so I just decided, screw it. Let's just start a war. Let's just start a war with Iran. Let's just destabilize the entire world oil market on a hunch.
So how do you see this?
I think it's pretty believable, Philip August. I don't think it's, yeah. Ukraine has already started giving its assistance to the Gulf states as well as the United States when it comes to the interceptor drones, yeah.
Ending this war.
I don't know, Sarah. I know this, that President Trump is the wrong guy to go up against.
I want to listen to that again.
So how do you see this ending, this war?
I don't know, Sarah.
Sorry, what?
So how do you see this ending, this war?
Oh yeah, now they just don't know. Brilliant, just brilliant. Again, no new worst president.
I don't know, Sarah. I know this, that President Trump is the wrong guy to go up against. That's what I know.
Kurt, welcome. Thank you very much for joining the program again.
Thank you so much.
This is so sad.
It's great to be with you.
I freely admit I'm a little confused about what the US is doing. But
We are all very confused, okay? We are all very confused as to what Trump wants to do, as to why he even started this war. The president of no new wars.
confused about is that World War II didn't really start in 1939. It started already in Spain, in the Far East, when the Soviet Union and Japan traded blows. So my question to you, can this, what we're seeing now in Iran, is this a slippery slope towards a global conflict?
Yeah, well, I think the answer to that is yes and no.
Yes and no. Both at once, of course. This is so nice. It is so nice that we're just dredging forward, ever so forward towards a World War III. Isn't it nice?
When we think about World War II, we think about large armies fighting each other.
I mean, Zelensky said that World War III has already started, so welcome. Well, welcome, everybody.
Continent. You know, the Soviet Union, fighting in Europe, Germany, Nazi Germany fighting in Europe, United States, France, UK, China, Japan, everybody fighting. And that, I don't think, is where we're headed. I don't think we're going to see that again ever. However, we are seeing something different, but global. And what we see here is an alliance of dictators, Putin in Russia, Xi in China, the Ayatollahs in Iran, North Korea, that are repressing their own people and have a desire to expand. Russia wants to take over Ukraine and rebuild the Russian Empire. China wants Taiwan. Iran has been trying to play a hegemonic role in the Middle East for decades. And they are working together because they share an ideology. They share an ideology of repressing people, repressing their own citizens, and dominating their neighbors.
Yeah, and that is why the collective West has decided to screw over Ukraine, right? This is why the collective West has decided not to nip this at the bud, not to give Ukraine what it actually needed, so that it would not be stretched thin like it is now. Oh, and decided to wage a war of choice against Iran. That is really a brilliant way to stop that evil coalition of dictators, isn't it? To screw over Ukraine and to start a war that is nowhere, the end of which is nowhere in sight.
On the other side of that, you have Europe, you have the United States, you have Taiwan, you have the people of Russia, you have the people of Iran, of Venezuela.
You have the cowardly Western coalition that is absolutely giving away all of nuclear escalation ladder to Russia and destabilizing. Yeah, that is a great way to stop all those horrible dictators, making sure that Russia can sell oil at a high price to India.
Who are trying to defend freedom. And they
by making sure that Russia has the upper hand. If the United States is trying to fight for freedom, oh boy, it's doing a shitty job. Also, I don't believe for 1 second that Trump is fighting for freedom. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not be children about this. No, Trump is not fighting for freedom. Trump is actually fighting to dismantle the international. He's fighting to dismantle international rules-based order.
Similar interests as well. And we're in sort of a mismatched hybrid war already, where Russia's undermining Europe, trying to undermine NATO, supporting disinformation in democratic countries, supporting political parties.
This is so pathetic. It's not mismatched at all. It's just that the West is not willing to do what it needs to do. Let's not pretend that, come on.
AFD and Germany. So we do see the outlines of a global contest here, but not like World War II, something somewhat different.
So are you saying that President Trump's objective in this Iran confrontation is to weaken this global alliance rather than...
No, it's not. It's just to push further his own ego and interests. If he wanted to weaken this global alliance, then why is he strengthening Russia so much through this conflict? He is giving Russia a wonderful situation right now. Maybe this guy will just say it because this is about Russia being the biggest winner in this war.
Focus on the threat of Iran, which he named specifically as the reason for launching this war.
No, I don't think Donald Trump really is perceiving the world the way I just described it.
Thank you. Okay, sure. Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, good. He's not saying that Trump sees things this way. So we're back on the right track. Yes, Trump absolutely does not see the world on these lines, along these lines.
I think he thinks Vladimir Putin is his friend, which is remarkable that anyone would think that. So I don't think he sees the world in those terms, even though I think that accurately describes the world that we're living in. But I do think that President Trump is indeed going after Iran deliberately. He saw an opportunity with the leadership gathering all in one place and decided that, okay, let's take out the leadership and hope for a regime change. It hasn't worked out the way he wanted. The regime has not changed and is unlikely to on its own. The people do not have the means to impose a new regime. In fact, you would argue that the Revolutionary Guards have actually clamped down inside the country. This has now resulted in spiraling oil prices and a
great victory for Russia. Because again, at the beginning of this year, the speculation was that the oil prices were dropping. They were at record low, especially for Russia, which was projecting to hurt Russia's economy in a big way, which meant that it was starting to... We already had reports that the bad economic situation of Russia was starting to encroach on its military capability. Like, we already know that Russia was forced to do certain economic moves within the military industry. But now that's all gone. Now that's all gone to the wind.
A deep dive in the U.S. stock market and a concern in global markets now about this war continuing and what it might mean for the global economy. And I think
some people speculate that if things go wrong, that the oil prices might soar all the way to like $200 per barrel.
Trump didn't count on that, and he's now responding to that, looking for a way to end this war sooner rather than later. And I think he sees it all in Iran terms. I don't think he's really seeing this global confrontation that is really going on.
No.
So
I think he is too stupid to see it. He is too stupid to see that his war with Iran has just been helping Russia against Ukraine.
Sort of on the side of the real confrontation, and he presented it as a war of necessity,
like the way that it is often described as a war of choice. Actually,
more and more we hear from these comments that's actually a war of choice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, is this the reason why U.S. population at large is very skeptical about this war?
There are a couple of reasons. First off, Donald Trump's base, the MAGA base, Make America Great Again, that was all premised on the idea that Bush and Obama were spending U.S. treasure, resources, blood overseas, and we needed to focus on America first, and that was
America first, which is why Trump wants the US to spend 5% of its GDP on the military, as if the United States did not have the biggest military in the world already.
Donald Trump's slogan. So they are having a hard time following the narrative of President Trump when he has now launched this war abroad.
Yeah.
In addition, even though President Trump is now saying that he felt that there was an imminent threat and we had to attack,
he had a hunch. Don't forget. And, he's a businessman, and businessman hunches, they always come true.
Deal with that before Iran struck us. There was no explanation of that at the time. There was no preparing the public, no preparing the Congress for the necessity of attacking Iraq. Iran.
Iraq. But no, of course he did not get approval from Congress. Of course not. Of course, he just did it on his own.
He did that and is now explaining that later. So the public has really not felt that they were brought along in this enterprise. They are still somewhat surprised. Why are we doing this? I would add, too, that the administration's explanations have shifted over time. They have not been consistent. So that also leaves people feeling a little bewildered. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, it just makes people think that this was done on a whim without any thought put into it, without any rhyme or reason. And now the administration is just flailing to justify it.
And now that it has dragged on for nearly 2 weeks, people are wondering how much longer is it going to go on. If the objective is regime change, does that mean we'll use ground troops? That seems to be ruled out. But if
Trump has floated around the idea of maybe using troops on the ground, I don't think it has been officially ruled out.
We don't, then how will that regime change? And if we are not doing that and not going in for regime change, what is the objective? Because right now it looks like we have a hostile regime that is now very angry, very embittered, and likely to engage in more attacks, both in the region and against our allies and against U.S. interests globally, including possibly.
And as FBI says, possibly attack U.S. soil itself.
Possible terrorist attacks. So people are very puzzled as to what the objective here really is and whether we can actually.
The United States mainland might be attacked, from what the reports of the FBI have been saying.
Achieve it.
Okay, I'll try to be President Trump's advocate for a second here, because some analysts are arguing that actually the whole thing is really about geopolitics, and is actually about the confrontation that you mentioned at the beginning, that this is all about China, this is all about, if you will, destroying or damaging this axis of China, Russia, Iran.
Well, it's a big failure considering how much Russia is benefiting from this, right? If you're destroying how are you destroying this axis if you're giving access to a huge swaths of wealth to Russia via oil sales?
Russia isn't pleased with these developments.
No, Russia is very pleased with these developments. It would be again a very big mistake to take Russia at its word. Yeah, Russia will condemn the United States for attacking Iran, But secretly, it will celebrate what is happening on the oil market. Oh, absolutely, it will celebrate.
Syria is gone as a sort of sphere of influence. Venezuela, now Iran, the Iran proxies in the Middle East, Hezbollah and Hamas, they are damaged. And the US and Israel demonstrated that they can go after a leadership of a big country. So President Trump is actually quite pleased with himself. We can listen.
Well, it's a mistake, since the leadership in Iran has already been replaced. So again, nothing has been achieved in that regard.
To his remarks today.
Day 11, and as you know, we're doing something that nobody ever thought was possible to do. Our military...
Yeah, nobody thought that it would be possible to do something this stupid. That is right. Indeed, nobody has ever thought that somebody would do something this stupid. But Trump did, because Trump always exceeds expectation. Trump always goes beyond.
Is the best, it's the most powerful in the world, and they're hitting him very hard. This is 47 years of abuse and killing lots of people, killing and maiming lots of people.
What more do you need to do militarily for this operation to end?
More of the same, and we'll see how that all comes out.
Yeah, that really makes me feel confident. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll just throw more at the wall and see what sticks. I guess we'll just have to see.
Right now, they've lost their Navy, they've lost their Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft apparatus at all, they have no radar, their leaders are gone.
Their leaders are not gone. Already, the replacement for the supreme leader has been picked. So their leaders are not gone.
And we could do a lot worse. We're leaving certain things that if we take them out, or we could take them out by this afternoon, in fact, within an hour.
Oh yeah, there are certain places that the United States absolutely cannot attack, will not attack, and leaves it intact. There's a certain island in Iran that is responsible for, I think, 90% of its oil production. And the United States is very deliberately avoiding attacking that island, because the United States does not want to mess things up even further. The United States is trying to avoid messing up the oil market even more than it already has.
They literally would never be able to build that country back.
A rather confident message there.
Well, yes, because he wants to project confidence. He
has had that con man mentor. There's a pretty interesting documentary, not a documentary, there's a pretty interesting movie about Trump's mentor, how he taught Trump all of his con man tricks, that you never admit defeat, you never admit weakness, never apologize, stuff like that. And we're just seeing it in action. Don't forget that even when you're losing, you're actually winning, that no matter what happens, everything is going your way. And we are seeing it with this.
What would I say? I guess he wants the Iranian leadership that's there to beg for a ceasefire, to seek peace.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. At least for in the foreseeable future. It does not seem that this will happen. So that strategy, that has failed. If that was the plan, then it has already failed spectacularly.
He wants them to promise to get rid of all nuclear weapons, no more ballistic missile program. He wants them to come to the U.S. The reality is...
What do you mean get rid of nuclear weapons? Iran does not have nuclear weapons. What does that mean, get rid of all the nuclear weapons? They were not even finished with enriching the uranium to the appropriate level.
More complicated. We have indeed taken out a lot of Iran's ability to project power in the region right now. As he mentioned, the Navy, the Air Force, a lot of missiles, missile launchers, air defenses. But we haven't done anything that is causing the regime to have second thoughts about staying in power, about repressing its own people. So that's why this is continuing. We're continuing to hit the regime, but it's not bringing about an end to the regime or a willingness to sue for peace.
No.
So I think on the one hand, he's projecting confidence about our military capabilities.
But it does not exactly match reality, yes.
which is quite accurate. On the other, he is implying that that is going to bring about some fundamental change in Iran.
But you were saying,
evidence.
earlier that Trump is still in some kind of alliance with Putin, and it seems this whole Iran episode is actually showing that this was never really true, because they're now on the sort of opposite ends, and Trump is calling Vladimir Putin and asking him to do more about peace in Ukraine, and there was this.
Yeah, and he's once again achieving nothing. Once again, Trump has had a beautiful call with Vladimir Putin, and they, I believe, talked a bit about Iran as well. Nothing was achieved.
Episode when it seemed the Russians were passing some intelligence to the Iranians.
Yep, but let's hope not. Let's hope they didn't. Let's hope they did not. After all, Russia said they didn't.
So, that relationship isn't looking as nice as it looked before this Iran thing.
It was never nice. Like, come on. But let's not pretend that it was. It's all the same. Putin is playing Trump. Putin has been playing Trump before. Putin is playing Trump now. Nothing has changed fundamentally.
Well, yes and no. The main beneficiary of this war in Iran right now
Russia.
is Putin.
Yep.
Oil prices have gone up over $100 a barrel. He was losing money on oil exports and gas as well, but particularly oil exports, when it was $50 a barrel, and he was providing a discount to China and India. Now he's going to be making money again for as long as oil stays above $75 a barrel.
Yep, he's going to be making a lot of money, which will be a big boon to his war effort. Something that should not have been the case. At the start of the year, just as this person has stated, Russia has been losing money on oil. Russia has been in a tough situation because oil is the main thing that fuels this war. It's the main thing that allows Russia to continue fighting Ukraine. And at the beginning of the year, Russia was in a tough spot when it came to oil prices. Now, the United States have effectively bailed Russia out in this regard by also, in addition, loosening sanctions on India.
So this is a gift to Putin, if you will, that oil prices are higher. In addition, he has focused our attention and all the world's attention on the war in Iran and away from Russia's war against Ukraine.
Yeah, there's also this big fear that many countries have that Trump will focus so much on Iran that the weapons available to be given to Ukraine will also diminish.
He has caused the U.S. military, as well as the Gulf states, to think very hard about their own air defenses. And so that is going to starve Ukraine a bit of some of the capabilities that otherwise might have gone to Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. That is also the fear, that those capabilities will not be going to exactly. That is exactly the fear. Yeah. Russia has been given this war is a gift to Russia. As much as they might officially say, hey, it's bad to United States that you have attacked, they are very happy with what's been going on.
And the Gulf states are now going to be replenishing their air defenses as rapidly as they can, and they have lots of money to pay for that. So this has all given Putin a bit of a reprieve in his war against Ukraine. And when you saw the reports...
Of course, there's a flip side to this, that the Gulf states and the United States have asked Ukraine for help when it comes to anti-air capability combating their Shahed drones, which means that there's a chance for Ukraine to make some good deals out of it.
Of the Russians providing intelligence support to Iran to help them with targeting American forces. When asked about this, President Trump just kind of dismissed it and said, well, yeah, they would probably say the same thing about us. Any other leader in the United States would be quite upset at President.
Yeah, but Trump just treats him as a friend. And Trump says, yeah, he told me that Russia did not do that. I trust him. Let's hope that they didn't.
Putin for providing aid to Iran exactly when our forces are in harm's way. And President Trump just kind of dismisses it. So I think that perception that President Trump has of Putin being his friend, or at least that he doesn't want to upset Putin so that there might be business deals with Putin at the end of the war in Ukraine.
Yes, that is actually a very important factor. I've been saying that time and time again, that Trump avoids upsetting Russia and Putin at all costs because he wants to keep a good relationship with Russia, because he wants to do business with Russia.
Just as Bogdan Hilo was just saying on the earlier program, I think that's very much still alive. That's very much in President Trump's mind.
But at the same time, Ukraine...
That is the main reason why he cares about the war in the first place, because he wants those deals with Russia. The war is just an obstacle to him. The war is just something that is in the way of doing lucrative business with Russia. That is the reality of the situation. The United States have all but bailed Russia out.
Is also politically seems to be benefiting from this because the Gulf nations now want Ukraine's expertise, Ukraine's drone technology. Even in the United States, there is now talk about Ukraine being actually a valuable ally. So maybe Ukraine is also benefiting from this.
Let's hope. Let's hope. It's still early days, but
that is a good statement. Let's hope. Oh my God. I don't have much hope. This is all fucked up. I'm sorry for my language, but this is just fucked up. This is a fucked up situation that the United States have put all of us in with its messed up war of choice.
I do believe that Ukraine has developed low-cost ways of taking out large numbers of Shahed drones.
Yeah, that is true. Ukraine has truly developed a way of targeting and fighting Shahed drones on a budget.
The means available to NATO countries and the United States and to the Gulf states right now are very, very expensive air defense systems. Yep. And they can't handle the number of drones that we're talking about. So finding lower cost ways of taking them out.
The so-called drone swarms.
A priority. Ukraine has made that offer to both the Gulf states and the U.S., and it appears as though that is being taken up and that this will build a bit better cooperation between Ukraine and the U.S. and the Gulf states and NATO countries. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. We'll see, however, whether that translates into more support for Ukraine in defending itself against Russian attacks. Thus far, the U.S. has put more pressure on Ukraine in the course of these talks than it has.
So basically,
placed on Russia. We need, if we actually want to see this war.
And no, it's not changing. In fact, the U.S. is continuing course when it comes to this, as evident by the fact, again, I will remind you, Trump has loosened sanctions on Russia. Trump has said, okay, oil prices are soaring. We're going to fix this problem by allowing Russia to sell to India, which is, God, that's...
And we have to put more pressure on Russia militarily, and we have to put more pressure on Russia's finances.
Well, that's not happening.
So far, what this war has done has taken the pressure off Russia's finances.
Yep.
Even Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent is talking about lifting sanctions on Russian oil.
Yeah, that's already partially happened. That has already partially happened. The sanction when it comes to India has been loosened.
In order to get Russian oil back onto global markets. And we have not increased the pressure on Russia militarily. In fact, we've given Russia a bit of a breather because it looks as though more air defense systems will not be heading to Ukraine soon.
But Ukraine is putting pressure on Russia, it seems, because they are making advances on the battlefield. And the European...
That is true. And they've also very recently done a missile strike on a vital factory of components for Russian weapons.
One way or the other, they keep delivering. So
that's exactly right. So the Ukrainians are doing that on their own.
So if you for a moment sort of put
again, the West is a disappointment. It is just pathetic that Ukraine has to do all those things on its own.
Aside the short-term impact, which is there, oil prices, uncertainty, perhaps fewer patriots for Ukraine at this stage, isn't Ukraine becoming an important ally of the United States and of the West, and in a sense proving...
Ukraine has been an important ally to the West from the very beginning, but the West was too stupid to see it. And the United States is still too stupid to see it. The United States still sees Russia as more of a partner than Ukraine, and Europe is too fractured and too undecisive to do anything of substance.
Europe's point all along that this war in Ukraine is essential also for the United States.
The main countries that are treating this seriously are the countries that share a border with Russia. That is the reality of the situation. Those are the countries that actually treat this seriously. Well, even among those, there are countries that don't necessarily treat this seriously, but it's neither here nor there. We're going to be talking about Hungary today, don't worry. We will be talking about Hungary. We will be talking about Viktor Orbán. Let's save that for later.
Yeah, well, look, I agree with you on a couple of the big points that you're making here. One of them is that Ukraine has strengthened its own capabilities. It is a stronger country now than it was 4 years ago, and they are now...
Oh yeah, I am going to interject a little bit of trivia here while we're talking about Israel. I am going to interject trivia how the United States and the West have been crying. The United States have been crying that it simply does not have the capability to support Ukraine with weapons, that the United States simply cannot empty its stock in order to supply Ukraine. And then, what's the amount of missiles? Hold on. Oh yeah. The US State Department has invoked the emergency clause of the AECA to approve a possible foreign military sale to Israel of 12,000 general purpose Blue 110A, 1,000 associated services for an estimated 151.8 million. The sale will be fulfilled from both US stocks and the new production. Amazing.
Now able to produce their own drones that can go long range into Russia. They've produced long range missiles that can go deeper into Russia. They have demonstrated that they can withstand Russia's attacks on the front line and even reverse them in some cases.
Yeah.
And I think that this trend line is going to continue. Russia is getting weaker and Ukraine is getting stronger. So in that sense, I agree with you. I think also there is no outcome for Russia's war on Ukraine other than Ukraine becoming a member of the European Union, remaining a sovereign.
Well, that's also not as easy as it seems. Let's wait for the elections in Hungary. Let's see what Slovakia will do, because so far Hungary is aggressively blocking the Ukrainian ambitions to join the European Union. That is what's happening right now.
Independent.
Because Russia has its own countries within the European Union. Slovakia and Hungary are pro-Russia countries. So it's not as simple as that.
European democracy, getting security guarantees from other countries in Europe. I think that is the only way this goes. However, that is not yet sunk in with Vladimir Putin. Putin believes he can still disrupt Europe, he can disrupt NATO. He thinks that he can force a peace on Ukraine that is to his advantage, and he sees President Trump and Steve Witkoff as allies.
They are allies. He just doesn't. I'm going to be honest. Putin is right to see Witkoff and Trump as allies. They are.
That effort, and he's dangling.
An entropy fan says, funding Ukraine is protecting international order and European safety. Meanwhile, Israel has been nothing but a liability since the 60s. I'm not even sure if I would call it a liability. I think that's underselling it. At this point, calling Israel a liability is underselling it. It's an active, destabilizing force. It's more than just a liability. I think there's a stronger word that could be used to describe what Israel is at this time.
business deals in front of them in order to get them to be interested in deals with Russia after the war. So we are not there yet. I think that the long-term case is exactly as you say. Russia's losing its allies around the world, Syria, Venezuela, Iran, so forth. It is getting weaker domestically, economically, especially financially, militarily.
Yeah, but it's also being bailed out actively by the United States via this war, via what's been happening with oil, via pressuring Ukraine. Sure, Iran is being attacked by the United States, but Russia is benefiting from it. China is still supporting Russia. Like, let's not oversell how much weaker Russia is getting.
They're not going Russia's way. But Putin is still there like a gambling addict who wants to just play it again and again, roll the dice again, hoping that he can score something here with the war on Ukraine and with President Trump.
I mean, he has been scoring with President Trump non-stop, without fail. Trump has been delivering victories for just without fail.
So, but time is, this time around, it seems, time is on Ukraine's and Europeans' side. They're spending more on defense. They're entering joint ventures to produce arms.
That's also not as easy as it seems. For example, there are nation states within Europe that are actually actively opposing joint initiatives by the European Union. One of those people is the Polish president, that has concocted a whole freak show alternative to the European Union joint initiative, which I might actually talk about it today because it's ridiculous, it's stupid, it's mocked, but it is nonetheless a thing that the president of Poland is trying to push. So let's not get overly optimistic about how things are going in Europe and on the side of Ukraine. And as we speak, Iran is closing the Strait of Hormuz with 0.1% of its missiles and an arm tied behind its back. And the US and EU couldn't have stopped the Russian shadow fleet. Yeah, of course. That is why that is why we're seeing such soaring prices of oil, because of what's been happening in the Strait.
So, and Putin, as you rightly pointed out, the economy is not doing that well.
And again, it's not only that the Russian shadow fleet is not being stopped. Trump has lifted some of the sanctions on Russian oil, has said, yeah, sell oil to India. It's fine now. We need to stabilize the oil prices. Russia, feel free to sell oil to India. There you go.
Recently, I saw footage of them pulling tanks from the 50s to the front line again because their reserves are depleted, and we hear about these huge personnel losses as well on the front line. While Ukraine survived the winter, and in some places it's on the offensive. So, you know...
Yeah, that's true. Ukraine has been on the offensive of certain parts of the front line, and it has survived the winter.
With Mr. Trump facing a bit of a backlash at home over the war in Iran, Steve Witkoff not able to deliver peace in Ukraine, I'm just, I'm trying to drive this point that maybe now Ukraine has better cards to play than, let's say, a year ago.
It does, but I would not get overly optimistic about it. I'm usually tend to be not overly optimistic about things, not try to oversell things. Yes, Ukraine has cards. Yes, Ukraine has had cards last year as well. It's just that Trump was too stupid to see it. And yes, Ukraine has been already offering the United States its anti-air drone capabilities as far as 7 months ago, and the United States have rejected that, and now they're regretting it, and now they're asking Ukraine for that same help that they have rejected 7 months ago. But let's not get overly optimistic about the state of things. I feel like that is a big mistake, if that makes sense.
I completely agree with that, and I think, as you say, time is on Ukraine's side. Things have worked.
Like that's the thing that I've been hearing from the very beginning of the war. So let's not get overly optimistic about that as well.
Working in Ukraine's
because the West is messing up so bad when it comes to, like, it is true that time would be on Ukraine's side if the West was effectively and competently providing aid for it, but it is not. So I'm a bit torn on the whole time is on this sides, okay? Time is on the side of this or that country.
Direction over the long term and against Putin over the long term. The issue is whether we can accelerate that timeline or drag it out. And so far, we're not acting decisively to accelerate the timeline.
Yep.
What we should be doing is putting secondary sanctions in place on Russian oil and gas.
And instead, we are actually lifting them. So
gas exports, cutting off any financial flows to the Kremlin. Instead, we're talking about easing those sanctions.
Yep.
Facilitating the financial flows. The spike in oil prices is benefiting the Kremlin. So we should be accelerating the timeline by going after those finances. We're not. Likewise, we should be accelerating the timeline by making sure that we are...
And also, Russian equipment is still receiving parts from Europe. Yeah, there are still parts from Europe that are flowing and helping to create Russian weapons.
Helping Ukraine.
There are leaks in the sanctions.
With long-range capabilities that can strike deep inside Russia, going after the missile factories, the drone factories, the missile fuel depots.
Just like Ukraine has done on its own recently, has gone after a very prominent factory deep within Russia.
And storage facilities, the airfields and platforms that are being used to launch strikes against Ukraine. But we are still, under President Trump, imposing some of the same restrictions on the use of U.S. weapons that the Biden administration had put in place. It's really remarkable that a bad policy from President Biden of restricting the use of U.S. weapons for long-range attacks has now been carried over into the Trump administration.
Right. One interesting feature of this Middle East situation is that
that does not shock me at all, by the way. The fact that Trump has not lifted any of the restrictions from the Biden times, that does not shock me at all. Because Trump does not care about Ukraine. Trump does not care about Ukrainian victory. Trump cares about doing business with Russia, and he's looking for the shortest route to that outcome.
Europeans this time around, maybe they're not engaged as much as they were during the Iraq war, but at the same time, there is perhaps less criticism of the US. So to me, we have these strange moving parts. The Europeans aligning themselves with the US, even if they don't like this war, really.
Not all countries in Europe are aligning themselves with the US. Actually, there's friction there. For example, I believe that Trump has been very antagonistic towards Spain as of recent.
Because they care about Ukraine, and Ukraine becoming more prominent in the sort of Western alliance. So what I'm trying to perhaps drive you to comment on is whether we see the rebirth of the Western alliance as a result of this.
No, I don't think so. That would be a very naive, I think that would be a very naive conclusion to come to. I really think that would be quite naive to come to that conclusion.
Middle East war, that the world order is going back to where it was maybe before the Trump administration.
Well, you're certainly right to highlight these contradictory dynamics. We see a Europe that knows that it cannot provide for its own security without the United States, at least in the current situation. They know they need the U.S. They also see in President Trump a leader who is willing to go after them personally and vindictively. Look at what he has said about the Spanish Prime Minister, for example.
There you go.
He is willing to turn
But this war, pardon me for interrupting you, but this war also made it clear to him that he needs the Europeans. He needs the European bases. He needs Romania. He needs Spain. He was disappointed that Britain didn't offer as much as he wanted. So finally he's discovering that these allies are real allies.
No, I don't think so. I would not get so excited about that either, to be quite honest with you. I would not come to the conclusion that now suddenly Trump is going to treat Europe as a valuable. No, that's not happening.
Not just paper allies.
Well, I think our military has known that for a long time. I think our diplomats know that. I still don't think President Trump thinks that way.
There you go. Yeah, I agree with this guy. I agree with him 100%. I don't think that Trump sees Europe as a valuable ally. I just don't.
I think he thinks we have a unilateral capability to do whatever we want. So it's true that we have benefited from this and we continue to benefit from this. And I think all the professionals in the U.S. know that this is important for the U.S. But I think President Trump sees things in a much more unilateral context.
I think so.
Right. We're slowly coming to the end of the program. So I wanted to ask you about something else. If I remember correctly, in the mid-1990s, you were the U.S. ambassador to Hungary. Is that correct?
Not ambassador, but I served there as a diplomat.
You served as a diplomat. My apologies. So
we're going to be talking about Hungary next. Oh, this is going to be our next big topic for tonight. We are talking about Hungary.
How does it make you feel if you remember those days when Hungary was abandoning the Soviet bloc, if you will, and moving towards the West, and now you see Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump supporting Viktor Orban, the Moscow's man in Europe, if you will, in an election?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's really perplexing that Viktor Orban is able to get away with that in Hungary. There is no love for the Russians in Hungary. They remember 1956 and the Russians crushing that revolution. They remember 18...
I am able to believe it because it's not about love for Russia. Viktor Orban is not running a campaign on the love for Russia. Viktor Orban is running a campaign on defending Hungarian citizens from war. And that is a big difference. It doesn't matter whether or not Hungarian citizens love Russia or not. What matters is that he says, listen, the European Union is trying to pressure Hungary into drafting Hungarians to fight in Ukraine. Ukraine is trying to pressure Hungary into sending troops to Ukraine. And I'm the only person that can protect you from this. I'm the only person that protects Hungarian families from being destroyed and drafted as soldiers in a war that has nothing to do with you. So no, I am very much able to understand how Viktor Orban is getting away with this. Although the truth is that his popularity is diminishing. He has been embroiled in a few very big scandals, and right now he is behind opposition by approximately 20 percentage points in the polls.
1948, and the Austrians and the Russians clicking their beer glasses over the bodies of the assassinated Hungarian generals, which is why, as a cultural matter in Hungary, nobody clinks beer glasses anymore because the Russians and Austrians had done that. So for Viktor Orban to create a situation where Hungary is now Putin's best friend in Europe, continued dependence on Russian oil and gas. Yeah. This is very strange that he's able to pull that off in Hungary. In addition, the Hungarians have always been extraordinarily pro-Western, connected to the EU, connected to the United States. And so to have this strong Hungarian nationalism, which is also another trait, turned against European partners, European neighbors like Poland, or against.
I mean, Hungary is still connected to the United States because Trump is a big ally to Viktor Orban, and Trump administration has been endorsing Viktor Orban.
The United States. That's also very, very strange. Orban has tried to rescue this by saying, well, it's the deep state and we love Donald Trump and he hates the deep state too, so we're aligned as this conservative movement. But unfortunately, the conservative movement in the United States is very skeptical of Russia, very against China, and wants to see allies in the world.
But MAGA is not. MAGA is not all that skeptical of Russia.
And especially against China. And Orban is, in fact, doing the opposite. Yeah, and I think this is reflected in what we see in the polling data in Hungary now ahead of next month's election. No guarantees how the election will come out, but certainly the Hungarian people are feeling a bit frustrated right now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
But I think that the Hungarian people are more frustrated when it comes to the domestic affairs than international politics. I don't think it has to do anything with Russia or how Hungary has been conducting itself on the international stage. No, I think the poll reflects more the unhappiness of Hungarian people when it comes to the domestic scandals that Viktor Orban's party has been embroiled in.
Kurt Volker, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. This was On The Record. See you next week.
So there we go. We've gone through this.